Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of BTP Reacts. It is Wednesday, and as sometimes occurs, not always, but with more frequency recently, we did get some news from the Wheel of Time television show on Amazon Prime. Now, if you guys didn't already know, one exciting thing is that recently the Watt on Prime actually changed their Twitter handle to Wheel of Time. We're not 100% sure whether they, went out looking for that Twitter handle and it was taken, and then they had to, wrestle it away or buy it away from whoever had it, or whether they've had it the whole time and they've just been using the other one to as a marketing thing. Not 100% sure, but it is still exciting to see them actually tweeting from Wheel of Time.
I know I've seen some people talk about how it might have just been Watt on Prime for them to kind of figure out Twitter and interact with the fan base initially, right. And then now that they've changed it to the Wheel of Time, that it's an indicator that we're closer to at least getting a trailer. And I think I saw somewhere, it might have been in the Dusty Wills live coverage of our newest news teaser thing today, but somebody mentioned that there was a rumor that May 12th there would be a trailer out. That was the rumor. I haven't seen much on it. I'm not going to invest anything in the idea that there's going to be a trailer.
If we get it, we get it. And if we don't, then, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Wheel of Time fans have been waiting for years for this. So,
I mean, it is a Wednesday. So, it is a Wednesday. So, I mean,
true.
Could be great. Could also just be, something else. Who knows? It could always be 1,000 different things with with the Wheel of Time and the showrunners and everything. They have bamboozled us before, so
indeed. Though not you. I think that I'm not saying that you've never predicted something incorrectly or not been 100% right, but you have been eerily close to a lot of the announcements.
I was technically right in my prediction for today, because my prediction was LAN Sword. And even though it's only a brief flash, unless you really slow it down and go frame by frame, technically
it's in there.
You see LAN
it's
sword.
In there.
You just mainly see LAN instead of his sword.
Before we actually sort of talk about that, we are actually talking about the news that dropped today, which is not really news. I mean, it's a teaser, which is always cool to see, especially the way that the Wheel of Time, Amazon Prime, is doing it.
Yeah. And for the record, today is the 28th of April of 2021.
That's also true.
So if you're watching this way in the future and they're like, we're on season 2, what are you talking about?
Yeah. We did this a while ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, I love the way that the Wheel of Time is doing this. They are doing a great job where I have not actually been worried, quote unquote, to watch any of the teasers. I really feel like they're doing an awesome job about giving us hype stuff and first looks at things without actually feeling like anything's being given away. I mean, there's still so many questions that they go ahead and pose even when you've seen.
Can you tell I've been staring at the computer screen? My eyes are fucking with me.
Because too many times I've seen teasers and trailers and stuff, and it's the best parts of the movie. And then you actually go and see the movie or the TV show, and you're like, I could have just watched the trailer. That was all of the funny jokes.
The ones I hate the most
things. But Wheel of Time's not doing that.
Yeah, the ones I hate the most is whenever they show you something as part of a trailer and it never makes it into the actual movie. I think that was Stuart Little or Stuart Little 2. I remember watching the trailers and my family and I dying laughing at the cat in the paint can being this can is now a litter box. And we watched the movie and it's not in the movie. The standard release. And we were just kind of that was the funniest part. And it would have been the funniest part of the movie, because the movie, to be honest with you, kind of sucked. But yeah. So what doesn't suck is
the teaser for today.
Yeah, is the teaser, and we'll go ahead and roll that now, just so that you can watch it, 2 or 3 more times beyond the billion you already have.
think you know this world. You know nothing. You think you know this world. You know nothing. You think you know this world. You know nothing.
Yeah, so that is what we got today. It came out first, I believe, on Daniel Henney's Instagram account, which is the same way that they did the Moraine teaser. It came out first on Rosamund Pike's Instagram account, and then it made it on to the Wheel of Time Twitter account, the Amazon Prime Twitter account. It was uploaded to YouTube. That's something that's new and really cool, so we can get better resolution because Twitter compression is AIDS. Oh, it's so bad.
It's so bad.
Like even trying to go frame by frame using the Twitter video versus like a ripped YouTube clip, it's so much better. Even for half blind me. But yeah, so it's super cool. It's our first look and listen at Daniel Henney.
Not true. They did the Daniel Henney voice in the booth before, so this is the first time we're seeing him, but not technically the first time we're hearing.
That's true. All right, I stand corrected. But I always thought it was the first because a lot of the discussion that I saw, or a fair portion of it, of what I saw when I could watch the 5 minutes of a certain live stream, and then I went back and was combing through it to try to help answer things I was trying to figure out. Was about the accent that he was going to use, and it was talked about almost like it was brand new news, but it might have just been like a restating of kind of like old feels, or a more concrete confirmed, like this is the accent for it.
Well, we heard very little of him actually in the voice booth. I think he said, like, I don't even know how many words, a very small number.
Yeah. So
I mean, in this, he also said a relatively small number of words, but it was like twice what we got from the other.
Oh yeah, and now we're gonna get to contend with all of the Godders that are gonna be like, they stole that from Game of Thrones. But like, think of it as an olive branch. We're like trying to like, do things, but with a character that actually is badass versus someone that's just really lucky and kind of badass. I don't know. Jon Snow.
I will say that the character who actually says "you know nothing" is actually.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But again,
still point stands.
Point 100% stands. Also, again, as we are well aware, I'm not trying to rag on any GOT fans. You guys are actually great as far as like Game of Thrones is kind of like the precursor to Amazon feeling like they can do this and things like that.
You're a good person. You're a good person.
You are actually good people. Lon says, "You know nothing, sheep herder," multiple times in the very first book, which came out in 1991. So I don't actually want to hear anybody saying that Game of Thrones did it first, because even though it's also in the Game of Thrones books or in the A Song of Ice and Fire books, it definitely happened in the books for Wheel of Time first. So if you try to come at us, I will slap you down.
Yeah. So let's get into it. How much can we dissect from a 6-second clip, all of 4 seconds of which are actual video? The rest is ominous music, kind of black screen, and some voice that we know is Daniel Henney's voice as LAN. So what was the first thing that stuck out to you besides Daniel Henney himself? Like, if you were just trying to pull something, like, what information does this give us about the series or the show? What was the first thing that popped out to you?
Yeah, it took me 15 minutes to get here, because I took me 15 minutes to get past just seeing Daniel Henney as
15 minutes straight of. Thankfully, it just plays on a loop by itself on Twitter.
Exactly, perfect. No, the first thing that I noticed was the orange. It's a very interestingly like light yet also dark color palette, which I don't know if a ton of people know this. I'm sure that a lot of you know
It's
this,
like Halloween.
but don't necessarily know you know this. I mean, color correction is a huge thing for movies and television. If you want to go ahead and make something look like it's in Latin America, you skin the whole thing orange. If you want to make something look like it's digital or like, Matrix style, you skin it all in green. You want to make something look like a romantic comedy, you skin it all in blue. Like, again, there's a lot going on with color correction that makes you have a certain feel. I don't know if I've ever actually seen this color combination. I'm sure that I have. So, like, if you have a few examples that you're
Every
sure I've seen,
Halloween,
you're probably right.
literally
But
every Halloween, I see this color palette.
really,
Yeah, this kind of like yellowish orange and black. It's very Halloweeny of like it being nighttime and there being a fire.
fair enough. I feel like it, but that's the thing that, like, to me threw me off because it feels like it's dark. It feels like it's in Shadar Logoth. It feels like he's going ahead and fighting Trollocs that have entered the city. But it also feels way too late to be Shadar Logoth, especially because it feels like there's fire, but it also doesn't have that, like, flickering of
Yeah.
fire. It
So
doesn't
let's
have
talk
that, like,
about that.
activity of fire.
That's
It
one of the
just has
things
the
I did.
color.
It was one of the things I did. I took and I can't like show it on here. I'm not that good with DaVinci Resolve, but I took DaVinci Resolve. I downloaded the video and I put it in DaVinci Resolve and went to the Fusion section and the regular section where you can kind of go frame by frame. Actually, no, I did it in the regular section because the Fusion section didn't want to show me the preview. And in the first part of the clip, you can clearly see the fire behind LAN, but you see a lot of light sources there, and in the second clip, that they don't change, they don't morph, and they're more like kind of circular in nature, indicative of like an outside light source, so like a lantern that's outside or something like that. And you see some that have more of a boxy kind of shape that are more indicative of light coming out of like a window sill or something like that. So I think that the majority of the light sources we see are actually, because we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, and then we were like, we should probably record this. Where I dedicated 30 to 45 minutes purely looking at this and being like, okay, just assume it's not Winter Night. Assume it's somewhere else, something else. And nowhere else really made sense to me. And it made less and less sense the more and more I talked about parts of it. But it being Winter Night, after all the decorations are up for the Beltane celebration, it would make a lot of sense that there are a bunch of those light sources around, and that they would be true light sources, lanterns, whether they're paper lanterns or, your kind of stereotypical medieval lanterns or whatever. And that would also make sense for the fire we see in the first, because I don't know if that's like a table or something that's actually on fire, because it can kind of look like that to some degree to me, or if it's like one of those classic medieval kind of iron fire holders that just has logs in it and you light it and it's kind of like little ground torch. Somebody knows what it's called. I don't.
A sconce? No, that's in a wall. I don't know what that's actually called.
It's a floor sconce.
A ground sconce.
Yes. It's a big chungus sconce for the ground. That's what it is. But that's one thing I noticed trying to go through frame by frame is I'm like, a lot of these light sources don't change. They don't morph.
Static.
Yeah, they seem, the perspective changes a little bit on them. They do change very, very slightly, but it's more like a perspective shift rather than an active flame. So that was one thing that I'm like, okay, am I thinking Faldara because everything has to be lit all the time, or am I thinking Winter Night? And ultimately, I mean, Winter Night won out in my mind. But if it happens to be Faldara, I'm definitely going to claim that it was an idea that I had now. Not that nobody else has. I've seen people claim like Faldara and Shinar in general.
Sure. I will also throw out there that, again, I am not saying that it's impossible by any stretch of the imagination, but I felt like Barney's dagger, that Matt's dagger, was already like really far into the season to be putting in teasers.
Mhm.
I feel like Fall Dara would be like way too far into the season
Yeah.
to be putting out trailers. But
I
again,
mean,
I'm not
that's
saying
like
that they
you're
can't
fighting
do
your
that.
brain on like, are they going
Yeah,
to try to screw with us and make it something way later just
yeah.
to make us
That's
think
where
that it's
the
something earlier?
meta of it is starting to fight with the just general. Okay, what legitimately just 100% makes the most sense in story of this place?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah,
the first thing that
honestly,
stood out to me was the glow as you're watching the left hand side of the screen. The last teaser we got was Moraine. You see the same kind of glow with the same kind of artifacts. Um, though I did start to question whether what we were seeing floating through the light was actually ash, because if you assume that both parts of the clip for LAN occur from the same kind of overall scene,
sure.
then in the first one, yeah, you see them kind of around him in the glow of what we assume to be how channeling is going to be, at least in some way, visualized. But in the second part, the second half of the scene, the second 2 seconds, um, you don't see that. There doesn't seem to be any kind of particle drift or particle effects that are going around in the background to indicate that there's going to be a lot of ash anywhere. But there's also nothing in the book description to indicate that ash was falling absolutely everywhere. Because the picture we got way
Yes.
back with
In fact, actually, there likely wouldn't be.
yeah.
Because again, in the Winter Night book description, there are parts of the town that are on fire.
Mm.
There are parts of the town that are very much not on fire.
Yeah.
And they even like, again, it is so stark that it allows Moraine to determine in some ways that the fires were intentional, that the fires were actually specifically and strategically placed based on trying to go after a particular entity. And
The
you
most
don't
were,
have
or the
that
three of them were. The rest were distractionary fires.
Well, sure, but again, she says like, okay, there was enough of a distinction between what was on fire and what wasn't that I could figure out that this is what they were going for. This was a distraction, and that they didn't just want to set the whole town ablaze. So
Yeah.
it's not like there's actually, ash everywhere, because not the whole town is on fire. But there are pockets where there is a lot of fire, whether it be, the Coffin residents, the Luans, this, that, and the other thing, that are either very specifically intentional fires or distraction fires. There are plenty of places in town where that wouldn't be true, where it would
Yeah.
just
Well,
be
I think she
not
figures
on fire at
out
all.
that the Luhan, the Cothans, and the outdoor farms and houses, whatever, were intentional based off of what she knows she's there for, what she figures the shadow knows, and that who lived at those houses. But that the others around, that it wasn't just every house, that it was kind of
Yeah.
sporadic, scattered through the rest, means that they wanted it to kind of seem like they wanted to distract. Which some
The
people have
other
been like,
thing,
the shadow that you see at the very end, some people are like, oh, it's got to be a Trolloc, and one person was like, oh, it's a Murdral. And one of the responses I saw was like, oh, well, there's no Murdral mentioned for Winter Night. Like, yeah, there is. And for the Trollocs to be corralled, there has to be a Murdral there to organize them. So maybe we're going to get to see the rider with the motionless cloak actually, fight LAN very early on. That might be who he was fighting right then and there.
it's possible. I have doubts on that one, just because again, the introduction of the Murdral later on is so much more scary than if it showed up at Winter Night. But again, because I feel like leaving it the mystery between the time that Rand sees it all the way up until their fight outside of Shadar Logoth, basically. I mean, it's not right outside, it's a little ways away, but I think that like just makes me fear Murdral so much more.
Just because he cuts one down doesn't mean we actually fully see what it is or know exactly what it is.
Sure.
They may not dwell on it, that much, because there's a part of what looks like to be clothing or armor, something that juts out and obstructs Lan's left hand. And the overall figure, which there can be a lot here done with like perspective and the angles and everything to make the figure look smaller, it doesn't seem to line up with what a Trolloc would be, but there also isn't a 100% guarantee that all Trollocs are this size or bigger.
Though it is also interesting that I think in the book, there are, fists of Trollocs, and they're all working like relatively well together in the Winter Night, Beltane thing. And I feel like, unless I'm completely wrong, which please feel free, anyone, to comment below about how wrong I am, that the fists are actually led by a Myrddraal.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that there were a bunch of different fists there, so I feel like nobody actually gets any of the Myrddraal, because I feel like there would be an entire fist of Trollocs there that are all dead if they actually got the Myrddraal, not just a bunch of different Trollocs scattered here and there from like 7 fists, he says.
Mm. But it
So,
also,
I don't
like,
know.
it's going to be interesting because if they
it's
expand,
also possible that he fights the Myrddraal and then it just leaves, because like it's
it'd be interesting if they expound,
right.
because I kind of get the feeling that if, like, unless there was a significant number of Trollocs themselves that were killed, that if you have a couple different fists of Trolloc there that are all fighting and there's Myrddraal in charge, that, if you have sporadic Trollocs that die, they're not just going to get up and the Myrddraal will be like, okay, cool, we've lost 20 Trollocs, it's time to leave.
I mean, yes and no.
It doesn't make combat sense to me unless there was like only one fist.
Sure, but I would also sort of counter that a little bit, saying the Shadow really doesn't know what they're doing here. So it's not necessarily a situation where the Myrddraal have been tasked with, oh yeah, destroy the entire Two Rivers or destroy the entirety of Emond's Field. Again, they've been sort of seemingly ordered to be very like surreptitious and only burn these houses and only do this and only do that. So I feel like there's actually probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 fists in and around the Two Rivers.
I don't think there's
that many. And the Myrddraal are just really unorganized and whatnot until later, when they actually know more of what they're doing.
I mean, I think
orders.
I would think maybe 2 or 3 fists, and with that, they know that their job is to go out and they're targeting specific boys of specific ages.
Correct.
That they're supposed to be targeting. And I don't see the Shadow, whoever's commanding the Myrddraal at the time, sitting there being like, yeah, just go burn down the houses and then you don't have to bring any proof back, just leave. I feel like there has to be something that just makes them leave. And it could just be the honest shock and surprise of there being an Aes Sedai there with a very skilled warder that they're like, fuck off. But then again, just before the attack, they know that there's an Aes Sedai and a warder there because of the Raven. So now whether or not that information made it from I see through the Raven to here's my little shadow spawn boys that go in and fight, I don't know. I'm basing it. It's also
a question of whether the Raven is actually evil or not. Because it does specifically state that not all ravens are Eyes of the Dark One, but enough are that you don't want to leave ravens alive.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing, like Moraine as an Aes Sedai just looks at it and it flies away. So I think it seems to indicate, along with everything else, that there's a good chance. I don't know. Sure. That would be a better discussion, I guess, for us to have, like delving into the actual events of Winter Night.
Which, I mean, is probably a good episode, so maybe we'll do it. Yeah. Hey guys, while you're watching this video, if you want us to do that episode, let us know in the comments.
Yeah. So,
or if you think that's a stupid idea for an episode and go fuck yourself, then go ahead and put that here as well.
Yeah. So we get to see. There was the notice. Initially, there was the, hey, Lan's wearing his ring on his left hand, and then it was very quickly ascertained to just be a reflection off of his knuckle on his left hand, which makes sense. You know, sweaty, oily, whatever, you know, people are. It's medieval times. Nobody's perfectly clean unless you're an Aes Sedai, probably. But so there's that. But we do see Clutch in his
Or a
left
lane.
hand.
If you bathe every single 6 hours, then
yeah. But we do get to see Clutch in his left hand based off of hilt size, what makes more sense for the scenario that Lan he's dual wielding a two-handed sword in his right hand, and in his left hand it looks like he's clutching either I would assume it's just a dagger. I don't see them going so far as to make it like a sword breaker. That's seen unless somebody pointed out like, oh, if they cut Julian, then you know it might be an homage to that character whenever they appear. So all you heard
or
is
if
a
they
name.
cut Huron.
Yeah. But I don't think it's it. I think it's a dagger. It seems to fit, you know, Lan more, and it might pay homage to the original book cover for Eye of the World, where Lan had two swords. Yeah, so it might just be like, no, there's actually only one sword with, you know, the sheath all across his back, and then he has like a dagger, like a parrying dagger or something like that.
Maybe it's a Shadow of Mordor thing where he actually has a full sword, and then he also has a short sword that was stepped on and broken. That's just a dagger now because it's only this section of the sword.
You know, that's something nice. If your sword ever breaks in half, you can always turn it into a dagger. But if your dagger ever breaks in half, the most you can do is turn it into like an ice pick.
Yeah, a spoon. But just make it a spoon.
That happened to me in D&D. I had a dope broadsword, and I tried to use it as a baseball bat against a giant boulder, and it didn't go well.
Yeah,
we found enough pieces where it could be like basically like a rapier about like yay long. So it was a nice pick. But it still did radiant damage. So anyway.
Excellent, yeah. Anyway, guys.
So we also see that Lan has a top knot. We get to see the Hidori, which Sarah Nakamura has, and a lot of this was in that live chat from Dusty Will, said that the Hidori looks way better in person. And I'm like, cool. So Daniel Hendy's going to come to all of our houses and show us the Hidori in person.
No.
Yeah.
Just go to Comic-Con.
Yeah. Now, something else I noticed, and I'm not sure if it was intentional or just by virtue of compression, but there does seem to be, I found 2 artifacts in the image where the color scheme, it just doesn't match everything else. If you're in our Discord, you can see them in the common room there. If you're just watching this, then I either will have or will now put them in the video so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And part of me thinks that that's just trying to glean more from a video than is actually there. But it also may be something that there might be something there that they're indicating, hey, there's something here, but we're altering it in this.
I have altered the video. Pray I do not alter it further. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really cool to get a very, albeit brief, but I'm thankful we get anything at all. It was fun. We got to watch Sarah get a little sassy when I watched back the live chat, because she made the comment. It's something I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, you know, what other series gives you pre-trailer videos? And then like a little while later, I was like, should we just not do them? And the fan in me wants to say like, no, please continue doing them, and you know, ignore the assholes that are super critical of like, why isn't it more? But the other part of me that I know if I was in charge of like, you know, disciplining people that, you know, give an inch and they try to take a mile thing, she's like, cool, you get nothing.
Indeed.
So yeah.
No soup for you.
Yeah. So we get to see Lan's wardrobe, the kind of overall style. We get to see a brief glimpse at Daniel Hendy pulling off that kind of that Lan stone stoic face. I don't know. It looks good. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. And again, I mean, from our last BTP Reacts video, sort of, Daniel Henny is the character is the actor I'm most excited to see. So I was all about this today.
Yeah.
Give me more Daniel Henny.
It's pretty cool.
My brother from another mother.
I'm definitely going to agree with Innkeeper Hatch or Man Fear, whichever you want to call them. That there's probably at least half a dozen things that we overlooked or missed or didn't consider that Lauren from Unraveling the Pattern will point out within probably hopefully the next week.
Well,
I mean, to be fair,
always.
Lauren does have the experience with graphic design and video editing and that kind of stuff. And I do get to notice the obvious things in half of the pictures I see. So, but yeah, so any final thoughts?
Again, I'm just super excited about this one. The character of Lan is one of my absolute favorites. It's funny because not too awful long ago we were talking to somebody else and we were talking about how sort of perspectives change and whatnot as you read through the series. And while I will always still be I relate to Rand so much, both just from how, I grew up as a person, as well as how different he becomes later on and how much growth he has as a character and all of that different stuff. As I read the series again and again and again, I always get more and more and more and more relating to Lan. So I just am super excited that Daniel Henney is putting it together, or that he is doing a good job. I guess I can't really say that. That's not fair. I feel like
Based
he's
off
doing a
of
good
all
job.
four
It's a
seconds, you're doing a
6-second
great
clip.
job. For 4 seconds, Daniel, you lasted really well so far. We'll see
Yeah.
how you do.
Bingo.
So
exactly.
you can at least do 4 seconds very well.
Hey, that's 3.5 seconds more than me. So but yeah, I'm super super excited for this character and I'm super excited for this actor. So just today's teaser was everything I was looking for.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'd agree. I was super excited. Of course, I was at work like every one of these that drops because I work Monday through Friday. And we're in what the boss calls the valley, where there's not a lot going on at work. So I spend my morning bored just waiting to see if there was an indication something was going to drop. And I think the indications that something was going to happen came around like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I was like, cool, there's not much going on. I will be able to sit here and watch it and, see everything as it happens. And 30 minutes before the drop, so about 12:30, was whenever one of my coworkers like, hey, yeah, let's hop in the van and go pick up these 5 machines that the boss wants you to go and pick up, and I've got to drop off, and you've got to drop off, and we need to make a clone of a printer. So I'm sitting there trying to look at stuff, and the phone is going off. Though I will say, I can, for the foreseeable future, rest happy and content because I did reply to one of their tweets, one of the Wheel of Time's tweets, and they actually liked the tweet. So I'm pretty happy about that. What did I say? They tweeted out. They tweeted at a time, did we ever formally apologize for wheelies? And I said, this is it, the tweet that made me laugh out loud in the office today and get all kinds of looks from coworkers. Which is true. Because that was before we went out to do stuff. So yep. I'm happy. I'm happy about all of it.
Good.
So yeah. And some cool announcements. If you haven't already seen it, the Will Reeds put out a YouTube video announcing a kind of like an awards show kind of esque thing that they're planning for Twitter of Time. Go and watch the video to find out more. Alan lists out the categories and kind of how he's going to go about the nominations and all that other kind of stuff. And as far as that goes, that is all I am really at liberty to say. So go and watch their video. Look at that after you watch the LAN teaser about 1,000 more times. So, but in typical Black Tower podcast fashion, we have an episode to record that we are currently 20 minutes overdue starting. That's fine. But we're going to go do that. So,
that's good.
Yeah. So in the comments down below, whatever down below, make sure you let us know what you thought about the teaser, maybe things that you saw that we didn't mention, because there are more things that I at least think I saw that I didn't mention, but I'm not going to proclaim that I like have any ground breaking stuff. Mainly, it's speculation.
Ground baking.
Yeah, ground baking. I'm not baking the ground because English. But yeah, let us know what you thought, and
Chocolate chip earthquakes.
there you go. And let
Ground
us know what
baking.
you thought about the teaser, and who do you think's next? Do you think we're going to get another teaser, and if so, who is it going to be? If we're not going to get another teaser, why do you think we're not getting another teaser? Is it a good reason or a bad reason? Has Sarah finally had enough of the ungrateful shits and is telling the team no more after this, or do you think they're going to hold off on teasers to save for the trailer? So
Who won? Who's next? You decide.
works.
uh,
But all right, we will see you for the next episode. But for this, we'll see you for the next reacts.